I mean, you're speaking to the mayor of a city that's grieving right now. I mean, first of all, our thoughts and prayers are out to the families of both of those troopers, and to the young woman who also perished. And we have a lot of folks who, I think 19 are injured in the hospital right now. So it was a tough weekend for Charlottesville, but we're going to get through it. We're going to come through this, and so that's where we are right now.
The Washington Post said that the police had a, quote, anemic response, unquote, to the clashes. What's your response to that? Could more have been done?
I think that's totally mistaken. We had the single largest assembly of law enforcement officers since 9/11, almost 1,000 law enforcement personnel. We even went as far as our city manager made a decision on the Monday before the weekend when the rally was scheduled to move the permit, the location for the rally, to a larger park, a 100-acre park within the city borders, which would have provided even more speech and would have allowed all that assembly with, armed people with very strong opinions for this to occur longer. That was struck down by a federal judge who forced us to have this event in very crowded, dense downtown Charlottesville on the eve of the event at 9 o'clock. So that was a regret. I regret that happened, but we had a very strong security plan in place with a lot of folks to allow people to express their views. Unfortunately, they didn't want to do it peaceably, and so that's what happened.
Let me ask you about preparations you may have to make in the future. Richard Spencer, a white nationalist, has promised to come back to Charlottesville. He said 1,000 times. What's your response?
This is somebody who traffics in bluster and in intimidation. I'm not in the habit of making any decisions based on somebody who, does those things. I think we have a responsibility as a government sworn to the Constitution to not just allow free speech, but to protect it as long as it's done peaceably, which is what we attempted to do this weekend. If you have folks who are going to come in and act unpeaceably, then you're going to get unlawful assembly declared, which is just what happened yesterday.
Mr. Mayor, the president said that he wanted to know what was going on in Charlottesville and that we want to see what we're doing wrong as a country, he said. What's your answer to that?
I don't want to make this too much about Donald Trump. We have a lot of grieving, a lot of work to do as a city and as a country, but he should look in the mirror. I mean, he made a choice in his presidential campaign, the folks around with him, to go right to the gutter, to play on our worst prejudices. And I think you were seeing a direct line from what happened here this weekend to those choices. He has the opportunity, as do we all, to have a fresh beginning. Like I've said, our democracy has been through much worse than this, but that requires us to rise to the occasion. We're going to do that work here. We're going to work on civility and listening, deliberation, First Amendment, religious toleration, pluralism. I mean, those are ideas that are what got us here now, but we've just seen this tide of coarseness, cynicism, bullying, and, a festival of going to the absolute worst elements that previously had been hidden. Now they've been invited out into the daylight. I mean, a lot of people are coming here this weekend saying this will be a shot heard around the world. This will be the alt-right's moment. This will be alt-right 2.0. All that kind of rhetoric. And I think they're getting okays for that because they were invited into basically a presidential campaign. That has to stop, and it can stop now. What I did not hear in the president's statement yesterday, as well-intentioned as it may have been, is I didn't hear the words white supremacy. And I think that it's important to call this for what it is and to say, okay, this show has run its course. This shark has been jumped. Let's move on.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for being with us.